All right. Today I wanted to make a video about some things that I've been thinking about lately. A couple of tips on what you can do for certain snowboards on certain conditions, and a tool that maybe some people don't use on the regular. Some people use it every time that they go snowboarding. I use it all the time. But it's a tool that is going to be able to change your snowboards drastically, depending on what you want it to do that day and what the conditions are like. And just in general, it's just good practice. It makes your board perform at the optimum performance that it's supposed to be performing if you want it to be on that end of the spectrum. So let me just kind of describe what I'm talking about. One of the most important tools that you can have as a snowboarder, as you know, in the advanced, park, regular riding, beginner stages, all stages, is a snowboard edge tuner, edge sharpener, edge tuner. Basically what it is a little filing stone that is placed into a, most of them are all plastic, but you can get the old school filing ones where they're like 2 pieces of file, and those are a tiny bit more complicated. I've never used one like that. I've always just used the like little cheapo ones that you can get on Amazon, you get on Evo, you get on the house. You can find them pretty much everywhere. And what this does is that this sharpens the edges of your snowboard. All right, these metal right here, these are your metal edges. And why that's important is one, you know, for storage, all season use, you know, your edges are going to start to dull out, you know, as many times as you're riding. They're going to start dulling out over time, especially on really hard packed snow, icy snow, just general use of a snowboard. Your edges will start to dull out. And what happens when your edges dull out is they're not as sharp and they don't have the grip that they would is if they were sharpened. What was that? And so, you know, on all my carving boards, boards that are more of my camber style boards, carving boards, but it doesn't matter what board you have, edges sharpened can always be something that you might want to do, or might want to actually detune your edges depending on the conditions. So I like my edges pretty damn sharp. How I try to test to see if my edges are sharpened to my liking is when I rub my fingernail along my edge right here. I can see a little bit of my actual fingernail being shaved off, specifically at the contact point. In the contact point, I mean by your contact points of your snowboard right here, and then at the bottom you have 2 more in the back. So this one right here, I mean, it's scraping off a little bit, but it could use a little bit sharper. But in general, that's how you can kind of tell if your edges are sharp or not. When you run your fingernail over it and it starts scraping a little bit of your actual fingernail off, that means that they're pretty sharp. That means you're kind of in the ballpark of where you want to be. So the reason why this is important is, you know, people underestimate this tool because, you know, so this board right here, I like the edges really sharp on this edge. On this board, this is my 9-decker Donuts. It's a 154, and you know, on days where I'm going to be out with my friends, where I know we're going to be going fast, you know, the groomers are nice. They're a little bit firm, but they're super nice. You know, and I'm going to be bombing with my friends. I'm going to be carving. I'm going to be, you know, and there's not going to really be much powder. I'm not probably going to be dicking in the trees too much. Or maybe I'm just going, you know, groomers with my bros in the beginning of the day, and if they leave, I might, you know, go into the trees later. I'm going to sharpen my edges because I want maximum grip on the groomers, and I want maximum grip when I carve. Also, being this a 154, this is a little bit smaller of a board that I like riding. So I sharpen my edges to actually give me a tiny bit more confidence on a board of this length. So that's a scenario for this board of why I sharpen the edges, you know, to my liking on this one. Now, say I'm riding with my friends in the morning and we're doing groomers, and you know, I'm carving, and we're just kind of sticking to groomers, you know, and they were to leave, I'll bring either another like kind of stone that's like a filer to kind of dull out my edges, or it's what's called a gummy stone, which is more of like a small burrs you can kind of get out with this. You can also detune your edges a little bit with this too as well. But I'll bring these because if they leave and then say for some reason I want to go, into the trees, and maybe it's not powder trees, it's just kind of like, just regular trees, some pow here and there, but just, sometimes there's hard pack in there, sometimes it's kind of firm, sometimes you get into these little grooves that you have to get into. And if I were to have crazy sharp edges in those trees, it's not as easy to maneuver yourself in trees when you have super hard edges, sharpened edges, and the snow is not that great, because you're just gonna, performance-wise, it's gonna want to go the direction you want to go, and you kind of got to be a tiny bit looser in the trees, a little bit more forgiving, because there's just straight up solid obstacles that you can run into, and you'll just have a better time if you were to actually detune your edges going into the trees. So that's why I'll bring those. So when they leave, I'll sit there, I'll detune my edges a little bit. That way it gives me a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more forgiveness while I'm in the trees on this board, and I can kind of have the best of both worlds with this board as much as you can by just simply sharpening my edges and detuning my edges. This board is my Burton 3D Double Dog, and the reason why I talk about this board, pretty dusty, is when I got this board from the factory brand new, as I do all my boards whenever I get brand new boards, I check out to see if the edges and the base have been tuned by the factory, and that means if it's ready to go straight out the wrapper. Jones boards are ready to go straight out the wrapper. I believe Capita boards are straight up out of the wrapper. I think Nidecker, I'm not exactly sure, and Battalion I've noticed are pretty good straight out the wrapper, but I just straight up take it out the wrapper. I go like this. See, this one, I can see my filings of my nails super well because I sharpen the shit out of these edges because I love this board for carving. So I sharpen these edges really well. But whenever I got it out the wrapper, these edges were crazy dull. They had not been sharpened from the factory. They were not sharp at all. I was literally running my fingernail over it and I was getting nothing, even when I was really trying, nothing. So let's say I got this board, took it straight out the wrapper, strapped my bindings in, took it to the mountain, started shredding. If I didn't sharpen my edges and I had been on some pretty firm groomers or something like that, my opinion of this board might be completely different as opposed to me sharpening my edges and seeing what this board can really do. I could have took this out on the mountain, not sharpened the edges, and maybe I would have been like, the performance of this board is not as good as I think it is. This board's not that great at carving. This board can't hold an edge. This board washes out. My whole opinion of this board could have been changed simply by not knowing that from the factory, some boards are not tuned. And that's why I specifically always check, because I'm not about to buy a board and have an opinion of that board if it's not true, because it's not true. Because before that, I just sharpened my edges before I even got on this board. And from the jump, I know exactly what this board can really do. So there's people out there probably to this day, right now, that have Burton boards that might have got their first Burton board and they might have been like, Burton sucks. It doesn't hold an edge. It was soft. It would wash out, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? They might have just had crazy dull edges, and they just might not have had the full experience of what that board could really provide them. So that's another reason why you want to have an edge tuner, is to understand that your board might not come sharp from the factory, and you have to manually sharpen them. And instead of having to take it to some fucking guy to wax your board, tune your edges and stuff like that, just buy the stuff you need. Just buy the tools. They have kits that are like 60, 70 bucks. I have scrapers, I got scraping tools, I got an edge, I got a sharpener for these actual scraping tools. So instead of it taking 40 minutes to scrape your snowboard, I'm just in there bam 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 taking it all off, where I can not look at tuning my boards as a super huge chore, because a lot of people don't like tuning their boards because they see it as a chore. Is it a chore? Yes. Does it pay off immensely on the hill? 100%. I mean, you understand what your board, the contours of your board. You started looking at seeing, okay, I need to go get these burrs out. Burrs are little chips in the edges that, you know, if you're doing park and stuff like that, they can get hung up on features and you're gonna fucking scorpion, you're gonna fall right on your face, you're gonna hurt yourself, you know what I'm saying? And then just burrs in general, I just like to get them out because I don't like them. You know, get yourself a pair of tuning vices. These were super cheap. I think I got this on a website called Sideline Swap. Both of these together, I think I paid like 15, 16 bucks. Get yourself a flat surface, a table of some sort, something you don't care. Dudes like me, you have a garage. You know, build something or find an area or a table that you can mount these both to, and you got a full tuning station at your house, no problems. It's super cheap to get all this stuff if you just look. But I just really wanted to talk about this tuning tool because it really can make a difference of how you look at a board and your whole idea of what that board can do, what it's good for. My specific tuning tool, I have this little piece of cheap like blanket that I put around it because on mine I noticed that there's like these little plastic, over time some of the plastic on the side of this tool kind of sticks out further than the others, and when I'd be tuning my snowboards, I would, after I waxed it, spent all my time waxing it, making it super nice, I would see these lines running down the sides just right here and right here, and it was from just the unevenness of the actual tool digging into my base and just scraping up my freshly tuned base that I just did. I hated it, so I wrapped a piece of just cheap little fleece blanket around. Does the trick. No more scrapes, everything looks nice, and my edges are super sharp. Another thing that you can think about with tuning your edges is, you know, so we got the Burton Double Dog that's great for powder, but it sucks because the base sucks. There's a video about that, about the base, go look at that. But in general, I just kind of ride this as groomers, and super fast for carving, great board. This is a shorter board, same thing, great for carving, can handle POW a little bit, but not much. So this is like was my go-to for one season. This is my Arbor Coda 158, but this is a rocker shaped board. That means that it's shaped more like a banana. Camber's like this. This is more like this. This has more Arbor's Grip Tech. I've already made videos about that. It's an extra contact point, so it's one contact point, one underfoot, another underfoot, one at the edge back here, and it's the same on the other side. So this being a rocker board, it's naturally not going to have as much grip as a camber board or camber underfoot to rocker, like a free ride board. So, you know, on days that I know I'm going to, again, hanging out with my friends in the morning, we're going to catch some groomers. They don't really like the trees that much. And when they leave, I'm going to go hunt the trees for POW. This rocker board handles amazing in the trees because it's already set up to make those easy turns. The side cut is for nice quick turns. It's not a long side cut. I think it's like a 6.8 or something like that. So it's going to make really quick turns, and that's what you really want in the trees. You want it to be very maneuverable, and it's a lot less it's way more forgiving because it's a rocker style board. But you steer underfoot with these grip techs. It's an awesome board. I think I've made a review about it. I'm not sure. If you want a review on it, I'll give you a full review on it. Write in the comments if you want to, but no one comments on this. But anyways, I can have the best of both worlds to an extent with this board because if I sharpen the shit out of these edges, especially these contact points underneath, I will have the maximum grip that I can get on groomers with a rocker style board. It's not going to be anything as crazy comparable to a camber underfoot or a full camber board, but you know what? It's going to be the maximized edge performance of this board specific as a rocker style board. So I can bring this board out, shred groomers with my friends. I'm not going to be laying it over crazy, but it's going to hold well, and I know that I don't have to be too worried about washing out. Now say I didn't tune these edges, I've just been shredding this board constantly, all the edges were dulled out. My friends, they're going to be having a great time. They're going to be out shredding, going fast, have all the confidence, not worried about it. I'm going to be over there, you know, or you're going to be over there like, oh shit, I just don't feel confident. And when you don't feel confident on your board with your edge hold, you're going to wash out. So you'd have every reason to be nervous. So that's another reason why having an edge tuning tool is very good, because you can carry that in your backpack. it's not really great for not doing it on a snowboard, but you really want to do it at a nice angle. You can do it on a flat surface, but it's also kind of hard with your bindings in. You kind of have to have the bindings off, or you got to have a special table where they can fit through and it lays flat and you can tune it. It's better to just do it all before you get to the mountain. Everybody hates that guy that's trying to make adjustments on mountain. I know my friends get pissed off because I have so many pairs of bindings. I have so many boards. Sometimes when I get on the mountain, I kind of have to change my stance up just slightly, but everything else is dialed in. I got my edges dialed in. I got my wax done. Everything's good. It's good. But you just don't want to be that guy that's constantly like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know how to fix this, blah, blah. Study what things do. Look up tuning tools for snowboards. Look up what they do. I think they have specific tuning tools for magnet traction boards for you guys that have lip techs and niches and any other board that has magnet traction. Just really, really understand that this little piece of equipment for 25 bucks, 30 bucks and under can really change how you look at your snowboard. If you just have one snowboard, I don't know why you wouldn't be tuning the shit out of it to make sure that you have the optimized, because that's the one board you have, dude. You got to take that out every single day. And some days you might want it to handle this way, some days you might want it to handle this way. So, nice airplane. So just really understand that this tool can be your best friend, and you really need to invest and understand what it can do and what it can do for your snowboard. It can turn a rocker board into a board that can kind of keep up with your friend's camber boards. It's not going to make it the same, but it's going to keep it as close as it can be. And you can have, say you have only a rocker style board, and you want to try to practice carves, you want to try to lay it over more, you're going to want more edge hold and more confidence, and that's instead of having to go buy a whole new board, maybe you can practice carving with the board you have simply by just buying a $20, $30 tool. So really understand what this tool can do, and just, if you don't have one, go buy one and see how it changes the way your snowboard handles. And if you feel like, man, I wish I had another board because this board doesn't handle well, it doesn't hold, it washes out, chances are maybe your edges are just dull. So simple fixes, man. Understand what you can do and understand the getting to actually work on your snowboards is a blessing, and it can really help you in advance your riding, and you may not have to spend more money, you might just have to buy a tool. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about today. And if you like this video, leave me some comments. Tell me, questions about what you have about my tools, what I do, specifics on other specific snowboards. And if you want to comment, go ahead and comment. If you want to like. If you don't, you just want to watch this video, just watch the video. Get an edge tool.